Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 16th Jan. The news items that have been picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 10. We'll discuss them in detail. The first one, why can't FM stations broadcast news? Asks Supreme Court. So Supreme Court has picked up a PIL, a public interest litigation which had been filed in 2013, and this was filed by Common Cause, and it was questioning why there is monopoly on news broadcast current affairs programs on radio stations. So it is Prasar Bharati Corporation which owns the two government entities, that is All India Radio and Doordarshan. So these two broadcasting channels, out of which the radio, All India Radio, has monopoly on news broadcasting. For Doordarshan, it's not just Doordarshan, we have many private TV channels which broadcast news. Also for print media, apart from public, Information Bureau PIB, there are many other news media which print newspapers. So this, when private sector is present in other sections, then why not in radios? So why FM stations cannot broadcast news is the question which Supreme Court is asking to the center. So here it is hearing this plea because in 1995 there was a case in which the Supreme Court had given its judgment. This was Ministry of Information and Broadcasting versus Cricket Association of Bengal. So this 1995 ruling had clearly prohibited government from having any monopoly on news broadcasting as such. So then airwaves are a public property. That's what the Supreme Court says. So they are there to promote public good. So expressing of plurality of views, opinions and ideas should be welcomed. So there should not be any restriction. This, it says, is violation of fundamental right to speech and expression. That is Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution. So this is the question being put forth. It has asked the government to explain in 4 weeks the orders which it had passed from 2008 to 2013 to gag private radio from airing their own news and current affairs broadcast. So how can this be explained? An explanation is sought now. So this case specifically in 1995, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting versus Cricket Association of Bengal was on telecasting rights of matches. So these matches telecasting rights were sold off to a foreign agency by Cricket Association of Bengal. So that was dispute, and the ruling was that right to freedom of speech and expression also includes right to telecast, right to portray. So here in this case, like news as such, so right to portray and put forth that is also right under Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution. But since in this case it was a foreign entity involved, the case went against Cricket Association of Bengal. But in general, the ruling, the justification which was provided was that there is a right to freedom of speech and expression and put forth views on the media. So that is what is the basis on which the argument is taken forth in this PIL2 on FM stations. The next news item is Rajnath reviews Manipur situation. So Manipur has been in news quite often. You should know about it. That first of all, it is the state going for assembly elections presently. The 5 state legislative assembly elections which will start in the month of Feb. They are UP, Uttarakhand, Punjab, Goa and Manipur. So Manipur was facing a problem. Even at the time of demonetization, we have discussed this. The demonetization came into effect from 9th November, that people were facing cash crunch, people were facing lack of access to essential commodities. But then the problem with respect to the state of Manipur dated to 1st November itself. So from 1st November itself, the economic blockade was put on the state on some national highways by UNC, that is United Naga Council. So Manipur is a state which is neighboring Nagaland, but then there is a significant Naga population here which is representing the minority Nagas as such. So this Naga population is against the formation of new districts which was announced by the present government. So it is present Congress government which had announced creation of new districts, and the protest was that these districts created are such that it is turning the Naga population up there, bifurcating them and making them a minority there. So this district formation, some districts were vehemently opposed by the Naga groups. So this United Naga Council has imposed an economic blockade. So the movement of goods from adjoining nations is not allowed. So national highways are blocked. So even Manipur governments had demanded that center should intervene and resolve this crisis. The center had also sent in its forces. There has not been any precedence rule as such imposed. So it's already as it is that it is going for polls. Earlier the suggestion was given that the elections should be postponed looking into the situation in Manipur, but the election commission did not do anything like that. Elections have been scheduled in Manipur and they would be conducted. But the situation is thus that the economic blockade is now going on for more than 70 days. So of course people are suffering here and a solution should come out of it. The central government is already in talks with a Naga faction. So NSCN, they are already having discussions, talks with the government. The central government is also accused by the state government of undergoing negotiations with the NSCN IM. This is one faction of NSCN under which UNC also functions, United Naga Council of Manipur. So they want the center to proactively come to a solution to this matter. But of course, the state government also decided that no, we are not going to revoke the creation of new districts. So that would also continue. So the situation is quite volatile in Manipur. So we'll have to wait and watch what happens with respect to the elections also. The next news item is stay on hearing public appeals till polls. So the Election Commission has issued an order which is stopping chief ministers, all ministers, political appointees in all the 5 states which are going for elections presently. They should not hear any appeals filed by people before statutory bodies till the election process is undergoing. So this may unduly influence the voter. So as the model code of conduct is in place, then no such hearings by statutory bodies can be conducted. The Election Commission also clarifies that if there is a statutory requirement, the law requires that such a public hearing should take place, then it should take place by a non-political appointee, by administrative person. So that is by a secretary level officer nominated by the chief secretary should preside such hearings. So that is the Election Commission's order. So the statutory body hearings, so basically this is with respect to tribunals because hearings are generally in front of tribunals. So statutory bodies are set up in various ministries, departments, and they look into matters with respect to their department like electricity tribunal, water supply tribunal. So there are many such tribunals. So tribunals are generally headed by the members of the ministry. So ministry has political head also and political members also, minister of the particular ministry, and then there would be minister of state and so on, even at state level. So then there are administrative heads also. So every minister is the political head and secretary is the administrative head. So what is the Election Commission's recommendation? That secretary side should hear such cases, not the ministers, not the politicians. So that is it. The next news item is getting to know Tabby's star. So this Tabby star is known by 2 other names. It is Boyajian star or WTF. Where's the flux star? So this where's the flux is regarding light intensity. So flux is a unit for that. So this is a star in the Cygnus constellation, and the peculiar feature of this star is that the observations have been taken from Kepler's spacecraft. So here it shows that the light intensity drops by more than 20% at times. So there's a drastic drop in light intensity. So this cannot be just explained by some other planet coming in the way and this happening, because this happens quite frequently. There are small fluctuations too and sometimes large fluctuation drops. So what is the reason for this has now been explained by the theory of phase transition in magnetism. So this is a hypothesis put forth that how magnetism gets affected, similar pattern is undergone in these stars. The magnetic field of these stars fluctuates, because of which this light intensity fluctuation is seen. So this is the parallel which has been drawn by scientists regarding this famous star, Tabby star. So this you can see the fluctuations. So normalized flux and a time frame. So at some time you see these drastic drops. So that's what is the thing. So phase transition which takes place in magnetism too in general. So this is like crystals and with respect to crystals and gas. So paramagnets are there, and when they undergo a phase transition, they turn into ferromagnets, then they all align. So something like this is taking place in the star as well, because of which the light intensity fluctuates. So this is a new study which claims this to be the truth. The next news item is the moon is 4.51 billion years old. So the moon has now been dated back, further back, so around 40 to 140 million years older than previously thought. So the reason for this is the analysis which has been conducted on the minerals which have been brought from the moon. So these minerals are called zircons, and they have been brought back to Earth by Apollo 14 mission of USA in 1971. Edwin Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, they went to the surface of the moon. They landed on the surface of the moon on Apollo 14 mission. So this in 1971, at that time they brought back these minerals. So they have been analyzed. So these are called zircons. Minerals are called zircons. So the moon, how was it formed? So how do we know the origin of the moon? By studying these minerals. So that is a new study which has come forth, dating the moon further back. So how the moon was formed, the theory regarding the formation of moon is this, that a Mars-sized planet came and struck the earth. This Mars-sized planet has been given the name Theia. So Theia struck the earth, and because of this collision, the intense heat which was generated because of this collision resulted in huge amount of debris from both Theia and earth being thrown out into space. And this debris later coalesced and started revolving around the earth. So this debris later formed the moon. So this is how moon was formed. So this theory now presently, because of the zircon analysis which has been done, the age of the moon has been further shifted back. So that is the news. The next news item is 100 years of the bond. So this is regarding the chemical bond. The chemical bond was discovered exactly 100 years ago. So chemical bond is the basis for understanding molecules. So molecules are made up of various types of atoms, and atoms are connected to each other through chemical bonds. So this understanding of compounds is based on understanding chemical bonds. They're called horoscope of the molecule. Chemical bonds are the horoscope of the molecule. They determine various properties of these molecules, like even color, their reactivity, their solubility, all is decided by these chemical bonds. So that forms the basis of peculiar characteristics of various substances too, like semiconductors, ceramics, various types of metals. They have specific properties because of the specific chemical bonds which they have. So that is the significance of the bond. So the news is just regarding it completed 100 years. The next news item is market regulator tightens merger norms. So it is SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India, who recently had their meeting in Jaipur, under which they have come up with new set of norms. So these norms can be discussed here. So in a nutshell, if you look at them, the listed and unlisted companies, when they are merged, there are specific requirements which have to be fulfilled. These requirements are there because SEBI fears that a large unlisted company may get merged with a small listed company, and because of the merger get listed. So such things should not occur. That's why SEBI has put forth specific norms, and what it says is that the merged entity should have at least 25% public shareholding. So it's listed and unlisted is based on number of shareholdings in public. So with after merger to at least 25% public shareholding should be there, is a criteria required. Even the listed company should be listed on nationally recognized nationwide stock exchanges like BSE, NSE or any such exchange with nationwide terminals. So that is a requirement. Even other thing it says is that there should be compulsory e-voting by public shareholders. So this is public shareholders can be vast, diversified all across the nation. So they should have compulsory voting if the public shareholding is getting reduced by 5% because of the merger, the deal. So this is another requirement there. Next is with respect to mutual funds. So mutual funds have now been allowed by SEBI to invest in REITs and InvITs. So what is this? This is real estate investment trusts, and this is infrastructure investment trusts. So these are hybrid instruments in which mutual funds can now invest. So here also investing is allowed. It allows, permits celebrity endorsement of mutual funds as an industry, but not for a particular house of mutual funds of a particular scheme as such. So that commercialization, celebrity endorsement is not allowed. It says that disclosure in advertisement should be clearly there. So it has put in criteria for that. Disclosures should be there. Then the next aspect is with respect to fees paid by brokers. So SEBI has also decided to reduce the turnover fees paid by brokers. So this has been brought down from 15 rupees per 1 crore turnover to 20, brought down to 15 rupees per 1 crore turnover from earlier it was 20 rupees. So this is a 25% reduction. So this says will help in making attractive in such investments. Then criteria to issue municipal bonds is, so municipalities now need to have surplus income over expenditure in any one of the past 3 financial years, and it can issue municipal bonds. Also, earlier regulation required that municipalities had a positive net worth in 3 preceding financial years. So this aspect has been done away with. So municipal bonds can easily be an investment opportunity. So the only requirement now is that there should be surplus income over expenditure in any one of the past 3 financial years. The next is regarding the SEBI fees can be paid digitally by intermediaries. Then exchanges empowered to levy fines on listed companies. So all stock exchanges have been given this power. So these are some of the major recommendations which came forth in this Jaipur meeting of SEBI. So SEBI, you should know, Securities and Exchange Board of India was established in 1988. So it has been given the statutory status to in 1992 with the passage of the SEBI Act. So it, since 1988 to 1992, it was a independent body under RBI, under the government. Now it has become a completely independent body outside in the private sector purview since 1992. So this is SEBI Act of 1992 which gave it statutory status. The objectives of SEBI are quite understandable, that it wants healthy and orderly growth of the securities market and secure investor protection. So specifically for that, it has to first to ensure security, steady flow of savings into the capital market can be ensured. Then the next is regulate the security markets and ensure fair practices. So the securities market itself should be alert. And finally, it says to promote efficient services by brokers, merchant bankers and other intermediaries so that they become competitive and professional. So these are some of the objectives with which SEBI functions. Then real estate infrastructure, real estate investment trusts, what are they? It's mentioned here. So these are kind of investment vehicles created specifically to encourage investment in the real estate sector. So these investors issue units to investors. So the owner of REITs will issue units to the various investors, and then these investors fund can be used to invest in real estate sector. So this is how it functions. It's a mutual fund, earning would also come, and plus it would also be an infrastructure trust. So this is 2-in-1 which is being done presently. So this is real estate investment instrument. So anybody can invest in real estate, so there need not be any large outlays. With specific intention itself, you can invest. So even REITs has to distribute 90% of their profits back to investors by dividend. So you can't just raise your hands. Efforts need to be made to ensure that this provision is fulfilled. Then this is regarding REITs to the manager and the unit holders, how they are investing and even reclaiming the money. And this is regarding the properties, real estate properties. So rental income goes to them, the ownership goes to the investment trust. Then infrastructure investment trust. So these are also mutual fund like instruments that enable investors investments into infrastructure. So this is, so mutual funds have the best of both worlds, because here the investment of the investors is done by professional fund managers under mutual fund. So which shares, which stocks should they invest in, which they should not, and how much of it should it be invested. All that is done by these experts. Also, it is a diversified portfolio, means investments done in various types of stocks. So this is the benefit of mutual fund. Plus also the investor can enter and exit any point of time, provided there is no other restriction as such within the mutual fund. So this easy entry and exit is also good for the investors, plus also that it is in the hands of the experts. But as we hear in news also and in advertisements also, that mutual funds are subject to market risk. So if market risk would prevail, if it goes down, then the mutual funds would also go down. So overall market status is also required to be understood. Then the next news item is, it's time to say irashaimasu, that is welcome to Japan. So India-Japan relations have been quite under turmoil, basically because Japan, after the Second World War, Japan surrendered, and it was under US Admiral that it had established its own constitution as such too, and remained an ally of USA. So during this time, India was not aligned to any nation. We believed in non-aligned movement. So since Japan was an ally of USA, that is why interaction and cooperation between India and Japan was a little less. Though even at that time, we had been provided with overseas development assistance, ODA of Japan. So these developmental assistances, which are generally provided by developed or advanced countries, is provided by Japan to India. So that is ODA. So this was one aspect. Plus also another prominent deal which was signed was between Maruti Udyog and Suzuki Motors. So Suzuki is from Japan. So this was the deal in 1984. So this is how car manufacturing and proliferation here happened. Not to use the word proliferation, but spread of the sale of or increase in the sale of these cars, Maruti Suzuki cars, started. Then the other dip in India-Japan relations came in 1998 when India conducted its nuclear tests. So Japan has a special status of being the only nation which has suffered due to a nuclear attack. So of course it is not interested in nuclear weapons and is completely against it. So nuclear test being conducted is of course not appreciated either. So this was what India did in 1998, again because of which the relation got strained. Then the Narasimha Rao government came up with the policy, Look East policy. So looking at East, Southeast Asian nations, and also Japan falls within that region. So this Look East policy has been followed even by the later prime ministers like Vajpayee government and even Manmohan Singh government. So this is one aspect in which, through which India and Japan coordinate. Plus then the next aspect is with respect to trade and investment. So with respect to trade and investment, the situation is quite unfavorable because with respect to China, there has been a huge drastic increase in even the trade, plus also the FDI coming in and the target set. But with respect to India here, the situation is quite different. So trade and investment is also suffering. Japan's investment in China is almost 5 times more than that in India. So there's a huge scope over here, but then there are problems which Japanese companies face, like bottlenecks which are faced due to even electricity supply and other such basic requirements, amenities which should be there in place are not ensured, because of which it becomes a problem. So this is the problems which the Japanese companies face in India. One is of course red tapeism, ad hoc nature, and state level intervention. Sometimes there are taxes, sometimes there are exemptions. So there needs to be clarity here. The logistics difficulties which they face, the infrastructure requirement which should be in place, transport requirement which should be in place, even the infrastructure in terms of power supply, uninterrupted power supply which is not ensured, becomes problem for these companies. And finally, they say that there are delays in commencement of projects. So examples being given of even Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. So Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor was commenced in 2007, but then still it is undergoing delays. So even another one is Chennai-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, which has also been initiated. So feasibility studies are presently going on, but again, it has been delayed to some extent. So to ensure that such delays do not take place is very important. So the other initiatives which have been taken presently by India and Japan are, one is Japan Plus Committee, which has been set up. So it comprises of senior bureaucrats from Government of India and Japanese officials also, and they will look into all issues with respect to trade, investment as such. So these challenges will be clearly taken care of by this Japan Plus committee. Then another body is Japan Industrial Townships. So Japan is working on developing 12 industrial townships in India. So here Japan Industrial Townships should be established too. Such will be there all across the country here. So they'll have access to ports. So these are the problems which Japan industrial townships also face. Access to ports, lack of uninterrupted power supply, poor level of benchmarking of global best standards as applicable to industrial parks. The Tokyo Declaration of 2014 also talks of doubling Japan's foreign direct investment in India. So this is an ambitious target which has to be achieved in 5-year time frame. So we'll wait and watch whether this happens. So this has been in effect since 2014. So overseas development assistance, we already saw that India is the largest recipient of Japanese ODA. So assistance loans are provided by Japan even to India. So this shows where Japan lies as such. So it's ranked 4th in terms of aggregate FDI in India. So this is there. So you can see how overseas investments done by Japan. So how much has been done in China and how much of it has been done in India. So India saw a peak here during global financial crisis, but then it has again gone down and is going much down now in the negative. Then two-way trade with India. So how has trade with India improved? So you can see China's trade with India has increased drastically over the years. Whereas with South Korea and Japan, India's trade has gradually increased as such. Then the next news item is India superbug resistant to available antibiotics. So we have seen about NDM1, that is New Delhi metallolactamase 1. So this NDM1 is an enzyme. So that lives inside different bacteria, and any bacteria which carries this enzyme NDM1 is resistant to antibiotics. So this is the threat which this enzyme poses, and this enzyme has been named after Indian capital New Delhi because of it being detected here in hospitals in India. So this has presently been found in very few countries. So that is Pakistan, India, Bangladesh have been suffering because of this. Plus even in UK many cases have occurred, and presently the news is regarding USA. So USA also is seeing death of a patient because of NDM1. So this is the enzyme you can see. So there are two types of bacteria that have been seen to host NDM1. One is E. coli bacteria and another one is one which invades the lungs, and this is called Klebsiella pneumonia. So they can lead to urinary tract infection too, plus also they can result in blood poisoning. So there's a need for safeguard in this matter. So this NDM1 is a threat. You should know it is not a bacteria, it is just an enzyme, right? So this is it. The last news item is Epic Antarctic Voyage maps sea floor to predict ocean rise. So what news is coming forth presently is that in East Antarctica, ice shelf the size of California city as such is melting from below. So if ice shelves melt from below, so this is because of course warming, global warming. So ocean temperatures have also increased. So that is why there is melting down of ice below Antarctica. So this will result in the sea floor as such which would be exposed. So there should be clear. So study of this has shown that ice is melting. So the ocean temperatures are rising. Global warming is taking place, because of which ocean water temperature also rises, and this is resulting in melting of the ice below the surface of the water as such too. So this is what is being seen presently. So this says ice shelf the size of California is melting from below. So this melting is taking place at a much rigorous pace. So there's a need to check this. So that is why mapping of the sea floor has been undertaken by scientists from Australia as well, and they would be on a 51-day mission to understand this issue of ice melting below the glaciers. So that is it. These are the news items for 16th Jan. Thank you.